So I'm giving myself 6 minutes to cover the highlights of this episode, and when those 6 minutes are up, I'm stopping whether I've covered everything I wanted to or not. This is just to save my time and your time, so be warned, 6 minutes, hard stop. But before I get into things, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel? It would honestly be rude not to, but if you want to see more videos like this one, I highly recommend doing that. So, highlights of Season 3, Episode 4, The Mother of Exiles. So this episode obviously took the template from Season 1, Episode 5, Contrapasso. It did a lot of the similar things that episode had. It even had a similar kind of orgy sequence with some gratuitous nudity. I kind of hoped the show was moving away from it, but I feel like they just think it's one of their staples, so they have to have a little bit of it smattered throughout just to keep the pervert's interest. But I had hoped we had moved away from that, given in this day and age, I just think that kind of exploitation of women seems a little in poor taste. But the big reveal this episode was that Dolores is the one. She brought 5 copies of herself and Bernard. So we thought that there were like 5 hosts with her. Teddy was someone that had been trotted out. Some people would even theorize that Hale was actually Maeve. But no, it's actually they're all her. Hale is just another copy of Dolores. And I feel like this is not a well set up twist. I think there were probably hints of it if you were really looking for them. But to me, I feel like this is an example of where the showrunners are afraid of people guessing their mysteries, so they're kind of obscuring things as much as they possibly can. So I don't really like that. I feel like this felt akin to the Hale twist at the end of Season 2. And it just isn't that good of a twist in my opinion. It doesn't increase my appreciation for the story. But that's just my opinion for what it's worth. Other exciting things this episode, we got to see a lot of the things that I've not really been a fan of, which is the philosophical discussions, but they were pretty well done this episode in that I felt like they enhanced the conversation. We obviously had an awesome throwback line where Bernard questions Caleb in their scene together and says, hey, have you ever questioned the nature of what Dolores is telling you? Which is obviously a throwback to that famous line that they repeat all the time in Westworld. Hey, have you ever questioned the nature of your reality? So basically what Dolores is telling Caleb has become his reality. It's interesting because it seems like they're setting up Dolores as like the uber bad, like she's the big boss at the end of this show because she kind of won everything this episode. Everything went her way. Hale was able to put the man in black, shuttle him off to a mental health facility, which I'm actually not sure is not where he belongs. He might actually fit in well there at this point, considering his whole question is, what's real? And I thought there was a really good conversation with his daughter, who is Katja Herbers, who's back. And I really was glad to see the actress, although this is probably the extent to which we'll see her from what I can tell. I was questioning whether this was the end of the Man in Black, but I really don't think it is. I think he'll be back this season. I felt like this episode was Dolores beating everyone so that they can coalesce together and then come to defeat her, because you had Maeve get defeated by the Yakuza after she made a deal with Serac, and we had Stubbs get thrown off a balcony. Hopefully he's okay. I have a feeling he is, because they didn't show him die. I imagine that we'll see him getting up and being like, oh, that hurt at the beginning of the next episode. But we also saw, Bernard completely foiled in his goal to stop her from kidnapping Liam Dempsey. And we saw Caleb getting kind of sucked more into this. He's kind of become the more charismatic version of Teddy, where he's just a stooge for Dolores, and he hasn't really seemed to have a whole lot of agency. And I love the way that Aaron Paul is playing the character, but he really doesn't seem to have a lot of agency, as I said. But then we also had, obviously, the Yakuza slashed Maeve up pretty good. So, all the major players have been badly damaged or seem like they might be off the board, but I think that the rest of the season they're going to be coming together to come back after Dolores. And, obviously there's some interesting questions this episode we're being shown how, I think the really telling line was that Dolores said, "I thought that everything would be different outside the parks, but there is no difference." And I feel like that's what where the show has gone wrong, is I really feel like they had an opportunity to open up new worlds to make the show more exciting this episode and with other episodes, and instead they've opted to just show how the world outside the park is just like the world inside the park, and to me that just makes everything seem not that exciting. So I was hoping for more there. There was some action scenes this episode. None of them were super exciting. Obviously, I think the best ones were the scenes where Maeve was causing the technology to turn on its owners. The guns would start shooting the person who was trying to shoot her. And I thought those sequences were really cool. I was appreciative that they brought, I forget the character's name, but they brought back the Japanese actor from season 2. I felt like that was, I thought that was a nice little callback. And overall, I enjoyed this episode. I feel like I understand why people are leaving the show, though, because instead of breaking new ground, it's content to just stay in its loop and to kind of have the same things happen over and over again. And it's exciting. It's big budget. The music is amazing. I love the cinematography. I love the acting. But it's just doing the same things over and over again. And I really would like to see it evolve, just like its characters need to evolve if they're going to survive. But what did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments, and if you're interested in seeing more videos like this one, please subscribe. That's my review of Westworld Season 3, Episode 5, The Mother of Exiles.